With that, we head to New Orleans, where Sean Payton was heavily scrutinized for his decision to start Taysom Hill yesterday. Big scrutiny by some big names, some right here on this set. But Taysom Hill was every bit the dual threat the Saints needed him to be in a win over the Atlanta Falcons. Taysom, 18 of 23, 233 yards, ran the ball 10 times for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Saints won 24-9. It's their 7th win in a row. And with that, we welcome in Brian Westbrook. But I want to start with you, Nick. Nick, you were down on this decision. You questioned it. Yeah. So did Taysom Hill's performance prove you wrong in any way?
All right. Couple major announcements relating to Taysom Hill. First of all, I was obviously and unequivocally wrong about my prediction that Jameis Winston would throw more passes than Taysom Hill. Jameis Winston never saw the field. So on Sunday, Sean Payton didn't lie, told the truth. Taysom was their quarterback, and I was wrong about that. That is going to be the only thing I am wrong about Taysom Tebow about when we look back a year from now. Taysom Hill's best play of the day was a 15-yard underthrow. He did his damnedest early in the game to throw a red zone pick, and it got dropped. And the list of guys who we've seen come on and have one start with a very, call it, well-manicured, dialed-down playbook against a bad defense, we're like, oh, hey, Kyle Allen, is he any good? Nope. Oh, wait, my goodness gracious. I think Jake Luton might have something. Nope. Drew Lock, he could compete with nope. And all those guys, except for Luton, I think is better than Taysom. So listen, he had some great runs, which makes sense because he's a runner. The idea that this is at all sustainable is laughable. Credit to Sean Payton. The game would have gone no differently with Jameis, except they would have been more effective through the air. So I will triple down on this, Brian. I was wrong on Sunday. I will not be wrong long term about Taysom Hill not being a quarterback.
You know, the one thing about you that I love, Nick, is that you're willing to stick with whatever your point is, no matter what you see. And this is what I saw from Sean Payton and Taysom Hill yesterday. You know, I think it kind of justifies with the reason why you go with Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, number one, he played well, of course. He was accurate, 78% completions, did a good job there. He was decisive in the pocket. He didn't make a lot of bad decisions. He only didn't have any interceptions. He had a couple close calls there, but no interceptions thrown. The other thing that he proved, that he can throw from the pocket. 13 passes in the first half and only 2 runs. He didn't take off and just run at every opportunity that he had, especially in the first half there. But Nick, I think to your point, you're absolutely right. The NFL is a week-to-week league, and now that teams have film on Taysom Hill, he's going to have to duplicate this every single week. And the question is really, the jury is still out if he can do that from week to week. Here's a good thing for Taysom Hill and Sean Payton. They just played the Falcons. They play the Broncos. They play the Falcons again. Then they play the Eagles. Those 3 teams combined have 10 wins on the season. So Taysom Hill and Sean Payton have an opportunity to get things together, to kind of crawl before they have to walk. And maybe by that point, Drew Brees will be back and healthy and ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in retrospect, you know, he made the right decision. But I was one of many that said I would be shocked if Winston got this, if he didn't get the start. Taysom Hill went out there and he played phenomenal. He had one of the most efficient, effective starts of any quarterback in their start. So when you look at it, it makes sense. You know, when they made the announcement Friday, I was like, well, it kind of makes sense, because if I'm a defensive coordinator, I don't know how to prepare. And every single week, all you're looking for is an edge. Most of these games are decided by 3 and 4 points. So those little details matter. To be this far into the season and a defensive coordinator, the Atlanta Falcons not getting a beat on what to expect from the Saints offense, that's a big deal. So I thought it was a genius move by Sean Payton. Obviously, he trusts He trusts Taysom. Taysom went out there and he did a great job. So moving forward, I do think he can still be effective. I still think he can be efficient because it comes down to Sean Payton putting him in a position to win. He has everything he needs, Wild, to lead this team until Drew Brees is healthy and he's back in the huddle.
Okay, well, if the Seahawks pass defense didn't exist, the Falcons would be the absolute worst in the league. The Seahawks do exist, so no one talks about how horrible the Falcons pass offense is. So I think that has to be weighed. The other thing is, like, I've got a red jacket. I got a red velvet jacket. I wear it once a year. I wear it at a Christmas party. It doesn't work all the time. It works in the holiday season only, and that's the way I view Taysom Hill. It will work against the Falcons. I don't think it's going to work. But I have to be honest. Michael Thomas had a big day. He went 9 for 12, 104 yards. Yeah. So the idea that Taysom Hill can't air it out, I mean, I don't know how much criticism we can give Taysom Hill's game if Michael Thomas is happy.
Well, listen, we'll see how happy Michael Thomas remains. The story of this game was the Saints' defensive line. They had 8 sacks. Cam Jordan, if you guys remember, came on this show and said his favorite team to play is the Falcons because he sacks Matt Ryan more than any player in the league. He came into the game with 2.5 sacks, left with 5.5 sacks because he was just leading the charge, annihilating Matt Ryan. But folks think I don't like Taysom. And by the way, shout out to Roddy White because he ended up taking the smoke off me. Sean Payton retweets his tweet instead of mine, so I appreciate Roddy White for putting that out there. I'm happy for Taysom. Jenna, just like I was happy, you remember a few years ago in San Francisco when the whole city pretended that little kid was Batman and he was Batman for a day and everyone played along with it? I'm happy Taysom got this moment. The whole NFL world pretended for a day he's a starting quarterback. And he gets that moment no matter what happens. But we know Taysom Tebow is not a starting quarterback in this league and we'll continue to see that.
All right, so then, Brandon, let me ask you a question. I think you made a fantastic point that Sean Payton got some sort of edge, albeit a small one, by throwing a non-Jameis Winston quarterback out there that the Falcons had to obviously deal with and game plan for, and they didn't have much film on him. But now you look at Sean Payton's Drew Brees-less team. They're 6-0 over the last 2 years when Drew Brees isn't in there. What does that say about a guy like Sean Payton and this Saints team?
Yeah, that they have really good backups. You know, I think the league shifted around 7-8 years ago when a lot of our starting quarterbacks had their teams in position to go into the playoffs and got hurt, going back to Jay Cutler and the Bears and Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And then nobody had a capable backup quarterback on the bench. So teams started really investing in the backup quarterback position. So when you look at last year, Teddy coming in and holding his team together and going 5-0 while Drew Brees was down. And now Taysom Hill, and you have Jameis Winston, who is capable of going in there and getting it done with the right coaching and the right game plan. It says a lot to this team and their depth. But Sean Payton, you know, you got to think about it, man. Like, this guy does a great job of preparing his team week in and week out. Behind Coach Belichick, there's no one else besides him. Like, he does a great job. I keep saying it over and over again because I was there. Like, this guy is in the lab every night to midnight, drawing up plays, watching film. If you're a defensive coordinator and you coached in the MAC back in the 80s, he's probably watching that film just to see who you are and trying to get a beat on any given situation, Jenna. So, you know, I think this says a lot to this organization, their depth, and also Coach Payton preparing his team week in and week out.
I 1,000% agree with you on that, Brandon. And the fact that the Saints, Drew Brees never missed time ever until last season, right? So he got hurt when he was with the Chargers, came to the Saints, and he was on that list along with Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, of the quarterbacks that you essentially knew were going to play 16 games every year. And for him to miss 6 games in the last 15 months, after not missing 6 games, even close to that, in total of his time with the Saints, and for them to be 6-0, it speaks to the talent of Kamara and Thomas, the underrated nature of that defense, and Sean Payton's ability, at least during the regular season, to scheme a game plan together that is going to put the opposing team in a really tough position.
And And the talent of Taysom Hill. Oh, I thought you were going to say one more. Anyway, Saints pick up the win behind Taysom. Chiefs with the win.